Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember this night. The deep voice carried across the banquet hall, silencing laughter, silencing whispers, silencing cruel smirks. Because the man you mocked, the one you thought unworthy of even a simple dinner, is the reason this company even exists today. The audience froze. The so-called joke of the evening, the janitor sitting nervously in his worn suit at the corner table, lowered his eyes, unsure whether to stand or disappear. The crowd's laughter had died long ago, replaced by guilt and shame. And then, the story began. Daniel was not born into wealth. He wasn't born into comfort. His father had been a construction worker who died young, leaving behind debts, and his mother worked long hours in a laundromat just to keep food on the table. Daniel, quiet by nature and humble by choice, had learned early on that dignity doesn't come from titles or bank balances. It comes from how you treat people when no one's watching. But life didn't treat Daniel with the same grace he gave to others. He had dreams once, of studying architecture, of building homes that would stand as shelters for families like his own. But after his father's passing, those dreams collapsed. He dropped out of school to work full-time, sweeping floors, mopping tiles, emptying trash bins, doing whatever would put food in his mother's hands. Years passed, and the world barely noticed him. To most people in the grand corporate building where he worked, he was just the janitor, invisible, replaceable, a man whose name they didn't bother remembering. But Daniel remembered every single person he helped. He remembered the young intern who spilled coffee on her report and cried, so he stayed after hours to help her reprint and assemble it again. He remembered the guard at the night shift who fell ill, so Daniel covered his post quietly until help arrived. He remembered the struggling employee who forgot his wallet at lunch, so Daniel slipped his own meager savings into the man's hands, pretending it was just extra change. No one noticed. No one applauded. But Daniel wasn't looking for applause. He was just being himself. Meanwhile, in that same company tower, a group of young executives entitled, arrogant, born with silver spoons in their mouths, were planning what they thought would be a harmless joke. It started with a conversation in the executive lounge. "We should set Amanda up on a blind date," one of them snickered. Amanda was a kind but somewhat shy junior manager, who often became the target of their cruel teasing, but not with someone real. "Let's give her..." "The janitor," laughter echoed through the room. To them, Daniel was nothing, a prop for their amusement, a man whose feelings didn't matter. They convinced Amanda that she was meeting a charming new consultant, someone mysterious, someone hand-picked by the CEO himself. Amanda, hopeful yet nervous, agreed. She bought a modest dress, rehearsed her words, and showed up at the elegant restaurant with butterflies in her stomach. When Daniel arrived, awkwardly adjusting the tie he had borrowed from his neighbor, Amanda's face fell. She realized what had happened. The whispers around the room confirmed it. The executive sat nearby, hiding laughter behind napkins, watching as their cruel plan unfolded. Amanda's cheeks burned with humiliation. Daniel felt the stares piercing through him. For the first time in years, he wished he could disappear, but instead of anger, instead of walking out, he sat down quietly. "Good evening," he said softly, trying to smile despite the knot in his chest. I'm not sure why I was invited, but thank you for being here." Something in his sincerity disarmed Amanda. She expected bitterness or excuses or even silence, but Daniel's voice was steady, almost gentle, as if he had endured humiliation before and learned to carry it with grace. Amanda's heart twisted. She realized she wasn't the target of the joke, the janitor was, and somehow he was the only one handling it with dignity. The night grew heavier. Laughter echoed in the corners, but Amanda couldn't bring herself to leave. She asked Daniel questions about his life, about his work, and slowly a portrait emerged, not of a janitor, not of a man without ambition, but of someone who carried more wisdom, resilience, and quiet strength than anyone she had ever met. He spoke about his late father, about his mother's sacrifices, about how he once dreamed of designing buildings. He told her how he stayed up late reading books on architecture from the public library, sketching designs no one would ever see. Amanda found herself captivated. The laughter in the background blurred into noise. She saw only Daniel, the man who deserved so much more than the world had given him. What Amanda didn't know was that the CEO of the company was dining at that same restaurant that night. He had heard the whispers, seen the smirks, and decided to stay hidden and watch. By the end of the evening, Amanda and Daniel parted with a quiet handshake. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You didn't deserve any of this." Daniel smiled faintly. "Don't be. Life isn't about what people think of me. It's about what I choose to be." And he walked away. The next morning, whispers ran wild in the office. The executives bragged about their prank, laughing loudly in the break room. But their laughter ended abruptly when the CEO entered. He called for an all-staff meeting. In the grand hall, everyone gathered. The executives smirked, expecting praise for their fun. Instead, the CEO's face was grave. "Last night," he began, "I witnessed something. Something shameful." His voice grew sharper. "A group of my employees decided to humiliate a man whose work keeps this company standing, whose character puts yours to shame." Murmurs rippled across the room. The executives paled. Then the CEO pointed. "Daniel, please stand." The janitor, confused and nervous, rose slowly from the back. "This man," the CEO continued, "was mocked for his title. But what you don't know is that Daniel once saved this company from disaster. Years ago, during a late-night fire in our archives, he risked his life to pull out documents that saved us millions in lawsuits. He asked for no recognition, no reward. He simply returned to his duties as if nothing happened." Gasps filled the air. Daniel lowered his head, embarrassed by the attention. "And more than that," the CEO said firmly, "Daniel has shown more integrity, kindness, and leadership in his quiet service than many of you with your expensive suits and corner offices." His eyes swept across the guilty faces of the executives. "If this is how you treat people, mocking the very foundation you stand on, then perhaps you are the ones unworthy of being here." Silence. No one dared breathe. The CEO's voice softened. "Daniel, starting today, you are not a janitor. You will work alongside me in a new role, as Community Relations Officer, where your heart and your values will guide how we treat people inside and outside this company." The room erupted, not in laughter, but in applause, genuine, overwhelming. Some clapped with tears in their eyes. Amanda in the back smiled through her tears, her heart swelling with admiration. Daniel stood frozen, stunned, humbled. For once, people finally saw him. And from that day forward, the story of the janitor set up as a joke spread far beyond the walls of the company. Not as a tale of cruelty, but as a testament to resilience, humility, and the truth that a person's worth is never defined by their title. Daniel accepted his new role, but he never let it change who he was. He still greeted the cleaning staff by name, still carried groceries for his elderly neighbors, still lived by the same words he spoke to Amanda that night. "Life isn't about what people think of me. It's about what I choose to be." By the time the CEO finished his speech, the lesson was carved into the hearts of everyone who heard it. Respect, dignity, kindness, and somewhere, in the back of the hall, Daniel stood, not as a janitor, not as a joke, but as a man who had finally, rightfully been seen.